As the impeachment inquiry in the U.S. Congress gathers steam, President Trump tweets about a coup and talk of a looming civil war. There are signs of an in-house civil war at the biggest, most influential news network in the country, Fox News. The complaint at the center of the impeachment story, filed by an anonymous whistleblower, alleges that Trump abused his powers by asking the government of Ukraine to dig up dirt on Joe Biden, a possible opponent in next year's presidential election. Fox has been a bedrock of support for this president. And there were some signs before the Ukraine story of dissent at the network on where Fox should draw the line in its backing of Trump. However, this story has exposed those divisions like never before. The hosts arguing with each other on the air reflect a deeper split amongst Fox executives and within the network's owners, the Murdoch family. And as Fox's best-known viewer, it's not like Donald Trump hasn't noticed. Some of those angry tweets he used to reserve for CNN and the New York Times are now heading Fox's way. Our starting point this week is Washington, D.C. The prospect of the impeachment of Donald Trump has been a preoccupation of much of the American news media since before Trump was even sworn in. This headline was published just 6 days after Trump was elected, more than 2 months before he took office. Then came the Russiagate story.
Out of Washington and the latest on the Russia investigation.
On the alleged collusion between the Trump campaign and the Kremlin during the 2016 election. The investigation into that by special counsel Robert Mueller had many U.S. news outlets feasting on the story for more than 2 years.
If the American presidency right now is the product of collusion between the Russian intelligence services and an American campaign, I mean, that is so profoundly big.
In the end, it fell short of the high expectations that many journalists, in their excitement, had helped to create. All of which has made it easier for the White House to argue that the Ukraine story, which is centered around a phone call between Trump and President Volodymyr Zelensky, is just more of the same.
The Russia investigation, that was such a complex set of facts that I think it was tough for Democrats to really explain why Trump should be impeached.
Thank you very much. It's a great honor.
Whereas here, with the whistleblower complaint regarding Trump's dealings, not just with Ukraine, but with other countries as well, is a lot more straightforward. And so I think that has lent itself to making a clearer case for impeachment.
The White House have just released the transcript of the July 25th phone call between President Trump and the Ukrainian President Zelensky.
There was a discussion about some military aid that we were supposed to send, but Trump had put a pause on that. And so then this phone call happens, and Trump says, you know, paraphrasing, but okay, I'm going to need you to do us a favor, though. And the favor that he's asking is he wants him to investigate his chief political rival in Joe Biden. Donald Trump leveraged his power over a Ukrainian leader, and that's very simple. You can explain that to almost anyone. And once you explain to them that it's illegal, it will be very easy for them to understand that.
Much of the media in this country is not just fake, it's corrupt.
The president's response has followed the standard shoot-the-messenger pattern, attacks on the news outlets reporting the story, as well as a few potshots at the network that usually has his back, Fox News. Signs that Donald Trump's affection for Fox was on the wane had come even before the Ukraine story turned up the heat. 6 weeks ago, after the network ran an unflattering poll, Trump tweeted, "Fox isn't working for us anymore."
Over the past few weeks or months, I'd argue, the president has been calling into question some of Fox media hosts, as well as the network itself, for not always coming to his defense. The president expects Fox to be in his corner. He expects people to come to his defense, and when they don't necessarily, at least in his eyes, there is some tension there.
For most of his term, Fox has defended the president. Occasionally, news anchors Shepard Smith and Chris Wallace have swum against the current and told it like it is.
Why did the president use private attorneys rather than go to the State Department?
But they are vastly outnumbered, and the hardcore support for Trump comes in primetime through the hosts of opinion shows, names like Carlson, Hannity, and Ingram. The Ukraine story has resulted in that schism being laid bare on Fox's air.
Napolitano was here. We've had
So You have this tension within Fox of these two anchors essentially assailing each other's integrity. Shep Smith wants to be able to cover the news the way he thinks is appropriate. He had on Judge Andrew Napolitano. He has said that these are serious issues raised by the whistleblower.
That to which the president has admitted is in and of itself a crime.
Yes, this is the same crime for
This is seen as insufficiently devoted to the president's position. So you saw Tucker Carlson some hours later, the same channel, bring on former federal prosecutor Joe Genevieve.
Is it a crime? You're a former federal prosecutor.
Well, I think Judge Napolitano is a fool.
Shep Smith came back, a day later and said,
Attacking our colleague who's here to offer legal assessments on our air in our work home is repugnant.
Shep Smith said we could disagree with his ideas. This is ridiculous. And then Tucker Carlson did it again the next night.
Repugnant. Not clear if that was you or me, but someone's repugnant. And
So that's feud between Shepard Smith and Tucker Carlson did kind of highlight a schism at Fox News. Again, this isn't really a new thing. But because impeachment is such a significant thing to possibly remove a president from office, it seems like the stakes have gotten higher, and so these feuds have become something that people are talking about.
That schism that Fox viewers see in the network's output also exists and probably starts at the executive level. Rupert Murdoch's heir apparent, Lachlan Murdoch, is reportedly far less enamored of the president than his father is. And although Fox continues to hire ex-administration officials, like former Director of Communications Hope Hicks, it has also hired one of Trump's Republican adversaries, the former Speaker of the House, Paul Ryan, which may prove significant down the road.
If you could combine a roller coaster and a revolving door, that would describe the relationship between the Republican Party and the Trump White House and Fox News. And this is part of Murdoch buying certain kinds of allegiances from figures across the political spectrum. It will be undone if and when Trump himself is undone. But for the moment, for now, it is impossible to disambiguate the relationship between the two. It may well be that Paul Ryan wants to urge Lachlan Murdoch to foresee a world beyond Trump.
I wouldn't say that the president's bedrock of support at Fox is wavering. I don't think his relationship with Fox News is going to change. He may criticize certain people within Fox, but his relationship with the network as a whole is still very strong. He needs Fox in a way that they really get to his base. They get to the people who vote for him and he hopes will vote for them again.
Come on up, Sean Hannity.
Sometimes Fox anchors hit the road with President Trump, not to cover him, to campaign with him. When Jeanine Pirro or Sean Hannity appear alongside Trump at a rally, they look more like running mates than journalists. When Hannity returns to his studio, he routinely criticizes other reporters for their lack of objectivity.
Biden Incorporated, they have now been exposed in spite of the media mob's lying and the cloud.
On Ukraine, Hannity argues the real story is the corruption of the Biden family. And as one of his colleagues said this past week, Hannity, and by extension Fox News, are all that stands between Donald Trump becoming the next Richard Nixon, the president the Washington Post brought down in the 1970s Watergate scandal.
If it wasn't your show, Sean, they would destroy him absolutely. You're the difference between Donald J. Trump and Richard Nixon.
It is kind of an interesting thought exercise to think about how things might have been different for Nixon had he had the conservative media infrastructure that exists today.
Therefore, I shall resign the presidency effective at noon tomorrow.
Because, if you read about Watergate, a lot of the big revelations that occurred in the Washington Post or during the Watergate hearings, there wasn't kind of this right-wing infrastructure spinning it, immediately into tens of millions of people every night. But I do think that it's likely that Nixon would have survived Watergate had he had something like Fox News spinning the Watergate hearings, highlighting Democrats looking bad during moments where they were questioning witnesses, that sort of thing. It kind of provides a whole different way of interpreting news events.
Then the president responds,
That is something Fox has always offered Americans, a whole new way, a right-wing way of interpreting the news.
We're going to lay out the truth, each and every detail, that the president did absolutely nothing wrong, nothing.
Its reporters are skilled at glossing over the facts, but the executives calling the shots know there is no escaping the numbers. They live and die by ratings, something Donald Trump knows all about. And the polls now showing a majority of Americans are in favor of impeaching the president do not bode well for the Trump-Fox relationship. It's already starting to get messy. The breakup, should it come to that, will be must-watch TV.